And I remember some days like my heart was just so pounding, like I felt like I was gonna die. Yeah, it really makes me emotional. But he said sometimes
That's a good analogy. I didn't expect that.
can't complain.
Actually, you were the guy that
Yes.
recommended this today. That was one of the best decisions ever. Thank you very much, man. And yeah, really happy to talk to you. Really happy to talk to you. We're the two podcasters, so we're probably gonna have a really nice talk, man. Let me just turn off the notifications real quick because, yep. So I noticed that you just a little remark. This Marcus Aurelius book about Stoicism. That's a really good book. And yeah, how did you get to know about Stoicism and what do you like about it? Just like a
Oh
small
yeah.
question before we start.
Before we start, I'm assuming videos audience is watching.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Um, the reason why I got into meditation is that when I was young, I was really into self improvement, and I just have his book. And the reason why I commented on that was I was writing the password for my phone on there because I've just written so many things, and I just love him because he was an emperor who was so powerful, and he was still very humble. And I
Mhm.
remember he had a slave always next to him, and what his role was one thing. It was saying, "You're a man. You're a
Yeah,
man,"
you're
and
just a
that's
man.
a constant reminder for myself
Mhm.
of understanding that there's someone above me, and I'm not this immortal being, and that I want to do good. And he tried to strive for good. So
Yeah, there is an interesting story about that guy, like how he treated his wife. But I advise you to just watch a video on YouTube about that because it's like he's just a man in the end. Because that story is like I'm not gonna tell you the whole story. Is brutal. It has a lot of graphic details. So just go on YouTube, find it, and yeah, I think it plays well into his understanding that he's just a man. Because yeah, what he did was just a man thing. Like really, it concerns like cheating, it concerns all the killing and everything. So he just acted like a man, like an animal, basically. But yeah, I mean, uh, like you are probably one of the most impressive young people I've ever met. Honestly, at the age of 17, having a couple startups and actually make them like profitable and doing all this stuff, being active and just doing all this amazing stuff, coding and everything. And how did you like? What was your path so far? Because I only know the surface. I only barely scratched the surface of what you're doing. There is a lot of in-depth stuff. So I know that you did, the Garrison app with Rizzo. I know that you created a couple of startups, and one of them was actually profitable, or maybe two of them. I don't know the whole picture, so I'm really here to get to know you. Like, what is there? What do you define as like you as yourself as Elim?
yeah, I'm really happy that you're interviewing me. You make me sound so big. I haven't done much in my life, but yeah. So, like you said, one of my startups I was working on, it made some money. We had 100 users, so that was pretty nice. And I did work for a company called the Garrison. I built their website, not the Garrison app. Although I was helping them a little bit, but then I didn't really build it. So, yeah, that was kind of on that specific comment. But I have tried building maybe like 5 startups.
Mhm.
Some of them you can't really call them sort of 3 months things, but all of them we still talked with users, at least probably 50 users. So they were still something where you put effort in. And I tried to build a web agency, and I had some clients. Um, and I worked on right now. My only focus is podcast at the moment. I've tried building newsletters. I've tried making self improvement. I've tried a lot of different things,
Mhm.
and yeah, that's kind of what I do. And yeah, I am 17 at the moment. I love networking. I think we met at an event. That's most of my focus goes to meeting people, because most of the people I've interviewed and the most of the people I met, their biggest risks, they say, their biggest mistake and their regret in their lives is that they wish they talked to more people when they were younger. So I'm kind of trying to live by that
Mhm.
regret of theirs.
So is it like would you say is the defining feature of your success? Actually, no, like let's be modest, but also acknowledge objectively, it's success to be that like who you are at 17 is like mind blowing. Honestly, at 17, I always thinking about was girls and like how to get to university and this stuff, but I really wasn't thinking about big picture about starting a business. So would you say that you like as you mentioned you listen to other people and you listen to their opinions, so is that your defining feature that makes you like stand out? Is that what's basically like, propels you to move forward, or is there something else that you think is crucial for your character?
Hmm. Um, I mean, I'm still like a kid. I still care about girls. And I don't really care about university, but
Of
girls,
course you
yes,
do.
friends. University, I don't care much. But a defining feature is, I'm assuming you're kind of asking what drives me. What kind of drives me is I just don't like. I like grandness. That's one of the things I really
Mhm,
like. Like sometimes I can't sleep because I've met people who does like tremendous things at a
mhm,
scale which I cannot even imagine.
mhm.
Like I met a billionaire once and I shook his hands and it was crazy. Like he's built so many of the integral technologies and I enjoyed that moment a lot. But
Who was that person?
he was called Michael Maxwell Carter.
Uh-huh.
He created WebSocket and he created one of the WebSocket, which is protocol in
Yeah.
HTML. I don't really like talk to him, but I kind of shook his hand. I asked him how he did it, and he said, "I just did." Fascinating guy, and yeah, I think the grandiosity, those things are kind of driving me. But the main drive, I don't really know. I just like doing this. It's really fun. I
Mhm,
enjoy this so much. There's a passion in my eyes that I haven't felt when I do business, and
mhm.
especially podcasting. I didn't enjoy coding as much. It's good that I know, but I enjoyed interactions more.
Like talking to
Yeah,
people,
talking to
actually. Yeah.
people, meeting people. It's just like you learn so much.
Yeah, you're quite good with that. Like with talking to people, approaching them. Like you have this bright attitude and bright smile, and that's why when we first met, I thought, well, this guy is going to go far in life, like really far in life. Um, yeah. So, like one question I had, maybe a silly question, but do you play computer games?
Yes, I did. I played a lot of video games when I was a little. I'm still young, but when I was 13, I played till like 3 a.m. I remember eating nachos. I put like thousands of hours in.
Oh wow, what did you play?
I played Overwatch. I played Minecraft
Overwatch.
and League of Legends.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Minecraft,
And then I
Overwatch,
suck
League of
at all of them,
Legends.
so I don't know where that time went. But yeah,
Okay. Do you play games now or?
I don't really. I sometimes play like TFT, kind of like zone off.
Mm.
Or I play video games not to distract myself from business, to distract myself from school. 'Cause sometimes I don't want to finish assignments and I get so stressed,
Ah,
so I just
yeah.
fucking play video games. Like, but it's really not fun like compared to this business stuff. So
Actually,
so I just found it depressing. Yeah.
in my mind, you're just like completely blowing all this stereotype about Generation Alpha out of the window, because Gen Alpha in people's minds is like, oh, those people who basically like were born with laptops and all this technology that we had to wait for, and then that those generation like people that they play games and they spend their life waste their lives like doing nothing and shit. But you're here and you don't play games and you find this stuff exciting, like doing business, talking to people, making connections before you actually need them and fostering them is it's really cool. And I was thinking, like, do you have maybe I'm trying to gauge whether you are trying to follow the path, like conventional path in some ways. I know your path is not conventional with other people. It's like not the same. It's not the same. But maybe there are some intersections. So what do you see your life as like on the roadmap of things? What do you place as like the things that you have to accomplish? Like going to university, maybe getting married. What is your
Yeah.
grand plan of
Yeah.
things?
I think about this so much. I have dreams about this sometimes. My kind of grand plan is, so I like my voice. It sounds really nice from here. My
Yeah, it
grand
does.
plan, by 20, my goal is to build my podcast up to like 100,000 subscribers,
Nice.
at least to like 1,000 interviews, like something I want to put a lot of value in. And after that, my goal is I'll probably leverage my connections and I also build an internal community of like founders my age and probably co-founder with partner with some of them who've already been successful and merge and build something super successful when I'm 20 to 25 and I'm hoping for like pretty large exit at 25 or not even exit, just something that builds money.
Uh-huh.
And but in my 20s I want to make money before 20 so that I can kind of work while kind of seeing the world. Like I just love
Mhm,
working, but I
mhm,
also like working in cafes in a lot of different places.
mhm.
So I have this goal of maybe getting like a Porsche and just driving across Europe and just going
Nice.
to nice cafes and Seoul and Tokyo as well. And I want to do that for a couple of years. And I'm hoping to get married pretty early. I mean, for right now standards, it's very early. I want to get married probably 25, 25
Yeah,
to
in
30
Korean
is,
standards, it's really early.
yeah, in Korean
People
standards.
here say like 35.
Yeah,
I don't
30.
understand
Get
it.
married at 30. I want to have a lot, not a lot of kids. I want to have like 7 kids, which is not too much, but a lot for Korean standards. And I want to, at 35, I want to keep building it. And I have some goals. I want to help education.
Mhm,
Something around education because I really hate a lot of the education space. That's why I don't want to go to
Mhm.
university. I've never liked school, going to school since I was like third grade. I remember every morning I have to kind of push myself. Like school's just been this annoying thing all my life, and I want to kind of fix that when I'm younger. I mean, when I'm older a little bit. But first, I want to take care of myself financially and my parents, and also network because I enjoy these conversations the most out of anything in my life.
Right.
Yeah.
So like you don't think you will go to university, right?
I mean, my parents. I mean, if my parents is watching, I am going to university, of course. Um, but yeah, I probably will go to university for a little bit, but I can't see myself spending 4 years and not building something that generates enough money to
Oh.
make it not make sense. And I already know I can get some jobs as a
Mhm.
coder, front
Right.
end developer. So I don't know why I have to, unless it's Stanford or like Harvard or something. But I've also hold some concerns, and I just want to get started working. I want to live my life to my own accord, and I think
Mhm.
I feel like if I go to university, I'm only doing it because of fear, and I don't want to be scared. I am scared, but I don't want to. I want that courage to break free from that fear. So I
Mhm.
want to not go to university.
So like you have a fear of
Like
what
security.
if kind
Yeah,
of
what
stuff.
if like, oh,
Ah.
if this doesn't work out, then I have university to back off.
Mhm.
But I'm not sure if that's a good approach. And I mean, it's strategic, but I remember I was listening to today of My First Million. He interviewed one guy. I think it was from he has four unicorns. He was co-founded or
Mhm.
invested or whatever. And he's saying one of the things he looks for when he invests in people is that they don't have like what if they don't have a second. They have
Mhm.
this one goal and they're gonna make it work no matter
All in
what.
kind of.
And my other mentors, they always a lot of my mentors are college dropouts or they high school dropouts, and they live lives I want to live. So I'm kind of I guess it's possible.
How many mentors do you have?
I mean, mentor is a very vague term. I just kind of ask them questions sometimes in Kakao, but maybe have like 10 that I really call mentors. That really ask for advice, so it's very helpful.
Uh-huh. Well, what do you like? What kind of criteria you maybe stick to when you choose a mentor?
I don't like choose a mentor. Like, hey, you're my mentor. No, it's just someone to have a conversation with. But
Uh-huh.
it's very like clear that I'm much lower than you, and like
Mm.
I'm just here to learn, and they just give me advice. I just maybe have coffee chats with them sometimes, or ask them on
Mm.
Kakao. My criteria is that all of them are better than me in some specific way, and usually in all ways they're better than me.
Mhm.
So I kind of learn from their specific all specific experience in the specific context they've lived around. I try to like if I have an issue, if they've gone through that and help other people do that, then that person I ask for his advice. But it's not like I'm like super strategic. No, I just ask these people sometimes if I feel a little jaded or I feel a little confused. So
Mhm.
not nothing really like complicated. They're just cool people, and I just want to ask them questions because I want to be like them.
Mhm. Great. Is there something that you like, from the top of your head, you can tell that those people changed your mindset about, or like the phrase that you really like remember that stuck to you?
Yes, one of my mentors. I can't tell too much, but he's a really great guy.
Uh-huh.
I want to interview him, but he wasn't down for an interview, sadly. But he told me if you just focus on one thing for 2 years, I can guarantee you're gonna at least make good money.
Mhm.
Like just focus on something. He told me you're doing a lot of different things, but try to focus on one thing, and you'll definitely start making a lot more money. And he recommended me to do headhunting. Actually, build a headhunting agency.
Mhm.
I actually didn't follow that advice, but I followed his advice, trying to focus on something. And and he was the first person who kind of motivated me and told me that it is possible. And he has a very specific context he lived around, and that was very like he lived a life which is very similar to my life, and he accomplished what he did. So I got my first client because of him
Mhm.
that actually paid. So it was like
So focus. He said like focus.
yes,
Ah.
focus, and also that it's possible.
Uh-huh.
But specifically, yes, focus for 2 years, and I guarantee you're gonna start making money. Just whatever, just focus 2 years. And I think especially in this digital age, maybe it's more applicable.
Yeah, definitely. I heard this. It's really interesting. I heard this thought coming from a psychologist whose name is Orion Terban, and this guy he's like a relationship psychologist, and he did his YouTube channel for like 3 years before it actually blew up. And he said for 3 years he prohibited himself from even thinking to quit YouTube, and like that's how he followed through. So like for 3 years he didn't even allow himself to think about like maybe YouTube isn't what I'm gonna do. But he just did it for 3 years, and after that, like the success just came, naturally because he had like I don't know, maybe a few hundred subscribers for quite a long time, and then after this, it's just like spiraled out into, and now I believe he has like about maybe 400K subscribers on YouTube, and he's quite popular. Yeah, he's been invited to Chris Williamson podcast and all this stuff. So yeah, I think like here it's a really valuable advice. But do you think that this mentor, um, like, what's your personal approach to you want to do a lot of stuff, right? And do you think that you really have to narrow it down and focus, or maybe you have to like move in different directions at the same time and like maybe choose, or do you
Mm.
think that you really have to focus right now?
I mean, my mentor told me to focus
Uh-huh.
just specifically because, I mean, yeah, just specifically just focusing on one thing. I mean, preferably if you choose something, it's something where the skill set you learn is helpful in the future,
Mhm.
which is most businesses, because in this podcasting, I learned so many things which are
Mhm.
so vital for my future success.
Right.
And also, I mean, this is what Simon Squibb was saying. Simon Squibb, he sold an agency called Fluid in Hong Kong for, he never says the money, but I'm assuming $100 million or somewhere around
Mhm.
that. A very famous guy, love that guy. And he was saying, what was he saying? He was saying that whenever you do something, passion is in some ways important because it allows you to go that extra way. And even in a boring industry, he found specifically something he really cared about, and that kind of gave him a unique edge.
Mhm.
And in podcasting, I sometimes get tired, but this is something, unlike almost all the other startups I've done, like I truly do care about.
Mhm.
Like I care about how it finishes. I care about the conversations. So yeah. So I think that's maybe like, so when you're focusing on something, find something you can kind of care about. So yeah, that's what I try to find, and I found that I care about this and it's something I enjoy. So I focus
Mhm.
at least for 2 years.
At least for 2 years. Well, you've got some plenty of time on your hands. Like you're 17, and you can move any direction you want, and that's fascinating. It's like at the start of your journey, and you already have so many avenues open to you. That's insanely good because I remember I had this dilemma, when I decided to finally do something about my life, finally like start being proactive instead of reactive. That's actually like 3 years or 4 years ago, maybe when I graduated from Yonsei University with a master's degree, and I realized that the world isn't what I thought it was, and like people didn't really care much about my degree and everything, and they cared about my character, and my character was dull. And I was like, well, okay, let's start doing something. And I actually had this kind of like enlightenment moment that, oh, shit, actually, the world is full of possibilities. And I was just choosing this like very generic path of a usual dude, like graduating and trying to find a job and maybe sticking to the job for like 10 years and something. And then I realized, oh shit, I can do actually a lot of things. And then it kind of like blew up, like it opened my mind, but at the same time it made me lost in all these possibilities. I wanted to do so many things at once, play a guitar and then go to like found a startup or like start a business and all do all this shit all at once, and I was lost. And then I thought, well, you know if I want to move in several directions at once, I have to limit those directions, yes, but maybe not focus on one thing. It's just like move in those several directions, like three, four directions at once. So is that what you're doing right now? Like with podcasts, with business, with everything, you're moving in like a set of directions, right? Not all of them, not all the things you want,
Yes,
but a set of
yes,
directions. So what exactly are you doing right now? All like those directions. How would you describe them?
yes. So I have some directions. I mean, mostly it's focused around podcasting.
Uh-huh.
Specifically, the goal of podcasting is meet a lot of really great people and try to add value to my audience, founders and business owners, and kind of give unique insights from people who are not like super famous people, people who are less famous but who've built very impressive companies, and
Mhm.
ask them about little tiny things. That's my goal. I haven't really achieved that, but that's kind of the goal. And I have some other avenues, which is my health. I really think health is important, so I try to work out every single day. And then my relationships, I try to um, talk to more friends, try to date, stuff like that, so I don't
Do you have a
become,
girlfriend?
no, not at the moment,
Mhm.
but try to work on that. Not the best part of my life. I'm not really good with relationships, but yeah, and then my family, but mostly on podcasting and business, because just by virtue of doing this, I kind of become better at talking with friends. So yeah.
Right, right. Like podcasting for me, it's develops this skill to listen to people and actually be genuinely interested in them, and it's really precious. You touched the topic of family, and I suddenly remember that you are actually not from Korea, right? You moved here, like your parents moved here, your family moved here when you were just 1 year old.
Yes, I remember that. Wow.
That's fascinating because, and I get the goosebumps right now because I always wanted to interview a person who grew up here as a foreigner, but like was born here, essentially born here. So, what was that like?
Yeah, I'm from Kyrgyzstan, and I came here when I was 1, and I grew up in a private school, international school, so it wasn't like a Korean public school. So I've felt like a foreigner everywhere I go. So I'm
Uh,
kind of used to it. Like in Korea, people don't look like Korean,
yeah,
so people consider me foreigner. But I can speak fluent Korean. When I go back to Kyrgyzstan, I can't even speak. They speak Russian in Bishkek,
yeah.
the capital city. So I can't even. I don't know Russian. So I know the ethnic language, but even in my hometown where they speak ethnic language, they call me Uzbek because my pronunciation is not very
Oh
Kyrgyz,
shit.
and it's not something I'm really affected by. I
Uh,
just I like the fact I get to be my own me. I get to create my own me, and I don't need to be limited by cultural barriers of who this kind of cultural person is. Also, ever since I was young, no one could guess where I'm from. Unless
yeah.
they knew about Central. People have called me Eastern European, from Middle East, from Southeast Asia, Malaysian, Russian,
Oh
Mongol,
shit.
like all these things. And I like the fact no one knows who I am, so it's kind of
No
mysterious.
one knows Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, lucky I am from Kazakhstan. I know Kyrgyzstan. You guys are brothers. And I can relate so hard here because I am Korean born in Kazakhstan, right? So like even though people are used to seeing Koreans in the streets, I literally had one occasion when a girl came up to me and like, "Are you Korean?" And we were on a trip we were in the UK, and like the girl just from our group, she suddenly came up to me like, "Are you Korean?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "But you're from Kazakhstan, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "But why do you speak Russian?" I'm like, well, fuck, kind of doesn't make sense. Kind of doesn't make sense. So, like, do you have this identification crisis, maybe identity crisis?
No,
Like,
I've never really had like an identity crisis. Yeah, Daniel, are you going? Yeah, see, man. Thanks for the
thank you,
help.
man.
Oh, wait, bro. Okay, I guess it records.
Yeah.
But yeah, identity crisis. I've never really felt it. I don't know. People have friends have said that, but I've never really. I don't really. I've never really felt it. I mean, Kyrgyzstan, I kind of feel a bit lonely sometimes because my cousins kind of treat me as foreigners, and I don't.
Uh,
I've never really cared. I don't know why I don't care, but I just live life, and I find Korea amazing, and people treat me very well,
uh,
despite what other people say. Because I try to smile a lot, and I try to really show that I care, and I think that changes how people act to you.
right.
Like there was one cafe owner and a friend of mine. He, said this cafe owner one of the most meanest, strictest guys ever. Like, but then I actually was talking to him. I said, "This cafe is beautiful. How did you get started?" And he smiled, and he was like, "Ah, ah." So like, I think it's how you approach people. I think you can always, most people, I think you can, if you talk properly, you can be friends with them and they'll like you.
Mm-hmm.
Not all the time, but I think usually. I read How to Win Friends and Influence People, and
Mm,
I mean, you talked about importance of listening in podcasts. That skill set is so pivotal because one of its rules is you will get more friends, and one of its quotes, you'll get more friends if you care, like if you're more interested in them than if you're peer interesting.
mhm.
So if I'm interested in them, you're more
Yeah.
likely to be friends than if I'm this like glamorous person. Because I mean, all these like super successful CEOs, a lot of them don't have a lot of friends.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Like I
If you think
was
about it, yeah.
I was talking to a barber, and he says one of the guys he cuts hair for, he's this 50-year-old guy, and he's the CEO for this super big company in Korea, and
Mm.
he's not married. He doesn't really have friends, and yeah. So
But you don't think that that's success, right? You think like it's.
I don't think it's,
Well,
yeah.
what's your idea for success, though?
Yeah, my idea of success is success. I mean, I guess family is probably the most important.
Mm,
I have layers of success. The most important is probably family, friends, stuff like that. And then like this financial success. I think finances are so important
mhm.
because I grew up in. I still go back to every summer break, so that's my definition of success is helping other people. Like basically, there's this Maslow's hierarchy.
Mm,
There's like different needs. So I think success is just going up that kind of. So fixing the most bottom needs and then trying to go up up the needs. And the
mhm.
last one's like self actualization or something, and that's me helping other people, which is probably my goal. And
So you go to Kyrgyzstan every summer break.
yes, yeah.
That's great. That's great. I thought like you would be spending more time in Korea, but you go to Kyrgyzstan to summer break. Oh, what do you usually do there?
I go there and I go to my hometown. It's a place called Batken. No one I've ever met really knows. I mean, Kyrgyzstan they know, but I go there and I'm with. It's in a more village. Like
Hmm.
it's like what. So like it's not that. uh, So basically, I remember just waking up at night, 3 a.m. I had to
Hmm.
go take a piss. So I remember opening the door, going outside, it's dark cockroaches on the floor,
Yeah.
walking through this garden for like a minute, and then there's this hut, and then there's like a little hole inside,
Yeah.
and there's like a lizard there, and there's like ants walking around, and flies coming around, spiders, and all these stuff, and then a cat meowing in
Yeah.
nearby, and I just take a crap there, and that was kind of what it felt. It felt weird, and I kind of understood like this because so many people in our school. This school I go to is it's a private school, so kids
Mhm.
have more money and they're more
Mhm.
safe, and some kids are really wealthy. I think Samsung's daughter once went to our school,
Oh
and
wow.
it's not that I mean it's not like super expensive. I don't know why they sent, but she was like so very affluent kids who've never actually felt what poverty kind of is.
Mm.
Like Korean homeless people, it's really bad in Korea. One of the worst actually poverty rates amongst old people. But in Kyrgyzstan, it's like there's no,
It's pretty bad too.
yeah,
Yeah.
like my hometown got bombed like nearby, and like my grandfather's brother's house got like bombed. It luckily didn't explode because it was so old. But that kind of shows like, oh shoot, this life I live in is such a
Mhm.
bubble. And like we see the news and we see like, oh, there's things happening in Africa, massive flood in
Yeah.
Bangladesh, the killings of hundreds of people in all these different places. And I'm like, oh shoot, most people live under those circumstances. I live a
Yeah.
very like
Sheltered
yeah,
life.
very
Yeah.
sheltered life where
Uh-huh.
I'm not really aware of. Like
Uh-huh.
none of my friends can even they don't even know, and they will probably never ever physically understand what that means.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
People here, especially, like I found it really funny when they during my bachelor's years, people were talking about politics and about economics, and they said, "Oh, Korea is so corrupted." I'm like, shit, guys, you don't know nothing. Like, you don't know nothing. I'm from Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is corrupted. Like, where is Korea on the rating of corruption? Where's Kazakhstan? Kazakhstan is always down there,
yeah, I
161.
saw Kyrgyzstan was lower than
Lower?
Kazakhstan.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit. Might be, but it's actually like almost the same
yes,
level. It's just like difference, like, really insignificant
yeah, we're more
difference. Where,
corrupted. Yay.
yeah, we're the same. The USSR, like the same country essentially divided into several subparts. So it's I always found it like so funny to talk to people when they're like, "Oh yeah, I like to escape my bubble." "Oh, where did you escape to?" "Oh, Europe." Like that's not escaping bubble, man. It's not. I mean, it does certainly expand your horizons, but you have to diversify your spectrum. Like go to poor countries, go to good countries, and like wealthy countries, and everything. So I think that's like if I dare to assume that's part of your attitude towards life and towards things because you keep yourself humble and as you said that experience with a taking a crap in the middle of the night, that definitely is a humbling experience. That
Yes,
definitely
very
is.
much.
When you're like have to walk for a minute in the middle of the night somewhere, and there's only one this like hut.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I like used to visit my people, my relatives who lived in the country, and they have this like village and only one toilet for like not a village but for the street, and basically they go to the same place, like all of them, like all the entire street, like 12 families go to the same place to shit. So I was like, oh yeah, that's really humbling. I would not find it like comfortable for myself.
Yeah, and then even more like, I was farming a lot. I was helping my grandparents,
Huh.
and it's like it's super hot, you're sweating, bugs going on the floor, you have to plow the onions.
Right.
Everyone's doing it. It's hard. You're building things, and it's like, oh, this is actually hard work.
Hmm.
And I was a kid, and they didn't even push me that hard. So I'm like, wow, there's a different level of effort. And imagine doing this every single day for your entire life.
Hmm.
That'd be very tough.
Yeah,
And
people living those lives. So you talked Kyrgyz to them, right?
yes, Kyrgyz, yes.
And like you have accents.
Yes.
Oh,
I speak English, and some of my cousins can. But I speak Kyrgyz, but limited.
limited.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's like, oh, how are you? Good. And I understand what they tell me to do,
Hmm.
but not really like emotionally very like. So that's kind of an issue, but
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, like being separated from your family
I don't really
is
feel
tough.
separated. I don't really feel separated.
Uh-huh.
I think most kids they're way too close to their, like, I'm very close to my parents, but like to their grandparents, they're far. But then when they go back, I don't really see like my other cousins who've lived with my grandparents really caring so
Hmm.
deeply about, you know, the grandpa. But since I go there every once a month, I really do think so much of the time that I'm with them. So I'm grateful in that way because I have more limited time. It makes me appreciate it so much.
Mm.
So yeah.
Would you say that Korea, like you mentioned, it's uncomfortable sometimes, like people like looking at you and stuff. And when I was in Kazakhstan, I felt the same way. You know, like people
I don't feel
looking at me.
uncomfortable. I don't feel uncomfortable.
Oh,
No,
not uncomfortable. It's just like noticed, right? Like more paid attention to. Is that the right word?
mm,
Or
yeah, yeah, it's
in
somewhat
the street?
sometimes. Not really. I haven't really.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm not really aware. I don't really care, so I don't know.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Yeah, I noticed the difference, like sharp difference when I was growing in Kazakhstan. I was like, yeah, people stare at each other all the time. And when I came here, I'm like, oh shit, actually nobody stares at each other all the time. And when I talk to my friends, Kazakh friends about that, they're like, oh shit, it's like the reverse, the opposite for us. In Kazakhstan, nobody looked at us, and now here everyone's looking at us. So I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, we only feel the difference when it's like in contrast. So like, do people assume things about you in Korea?
Ah, yes. They usually call me MMA fighter.
Wait, fighter?
Yeah,
Why?
a lot of my friends or people I've met usually they say I look kind of. I changed, but they say I look very like the Russian, like Habib. Are you from
Ah.
Dagestan or do you wrestle? And most people say I act like a bully or they thought I was a bully, but then I'm
Oh.
totally not. I don't think so. I'm
Uh-huh.
not. But yeah, people they kind of are like they usually speak English at me, but yeah, that's it. Nothing else. Maybe
Uh,
they speak Russian because they think I speak Russian.
oh, some people speak Russian to you,
Yeah, they're like,
like the
yeah,
foreigners.
but they're usually like Central Asians or Russians, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah. You definitely look like a
нет
person.
русский, нет русский. And I say, I mean, no speak русский. I speak
uh,
English. Sorry.
I believe the first time I met you, actually, I tried to speak Russian to you too,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh shit, okay, maybe I try Kazakh." And then you're like, "No, I don't get it," and I'm like, "Okay, sorry." Let's continue with English, man. That's fun. That's fun. Mhm. Well, do you see yourself like staying in Korea for long term, or do you want to travel the world and like move somewhere
Yes, I
else?
want to travel the world.
Uh-huh.
I feel like that nomadic part of me is within me.
Nomadic
I
part.
want to see so much of the world.
Mhm.
Like I mean, not all countries. I don't want to go to North Korea and like Turkmenistan or those
Uh-huh.
countries, but yeah, I really want to travel. Korea is super nice, so I'm so thankful. I
Mm.
just don't like the fact there's North Korea and always that fear of
Yeah.
nuclear war.
Mm.
So yeah, Korea is just so comfortable.
It is. It
It's
is
so nice.
very developed.
But I think that's kind of its issue is it's so comfortable that I don't think I'll do much with life if I just stay in Korea.
Mm.
At least for me, I feel like San Francisco I heard is really good.
Yeah, Silicon Valley,
Yeah, but it's
basically.
also unique for me because I have parents here,
Uh-huh.
so it's just like, oh, if things go bad, I just can go to my parents and I can just live life okay. But I don't want that. I want to see the world, do a
Mm.
lot of things, be proactive.
You could probably like, go for, you know, get to a university in the United States or something like that.
Yeah.
I went to San Francisco, Silicon Valley,
Yes.
and I think like Silicon Valley is precisely the place for you. I've never been there, but I heard people talk about like, oh yeah, Silicon Valley is the place. San Francisco is the place for IT people, and especially people like IT people who are entrepreneurial IT
Sure.
people. So yeah, like, do you consider education in the US or
Yes. U.S. or maybe online, but outside,
Ivy League?
no, online, online. Ivy
Online.
League, I don't know. My grades are okay. I think maybe I told my friends. My friends said there is a chance, but I think if I work on this podcast, maybe. But I don't like doing things out of college. I don't like it. It's not fun. If I do everything just so I can get into a good university, I don't like it. If
Mhm.
I go into a good university, I mean, whatever happens, I'm assuming that I can show decent grades and doing this, that I'm
Mhm.
actually driven. I have this goal, I have this
Right.
vision. And if they cannot see it, maybe I did a poor job seeing,
Mhm.
but as long as I did a good job showing it to them and they didn't accept me or whatever happened, that's their fault. It's not my fault. I'm
Right.
living the life how I wanted to, and I'm working super hard. It's not like I'm lazy. So whatever I happen to, if I get in, then it was meant that college is, if they accept people like me, then it's a college I want to go to because then I can meet other
Mm,
like-minded. If I don't get in, it means my like-minded people like me, they're somewhere else. Because so many of the people I mean, like the people I like, there's one guy. I mean, a lot of them kind of dropped out or they finished high school super early. They don't go to universities. Um, yeah, so I'm like, oh, I want to be like those people,
mhm.
you know. So yeah,
Do you go to Hagwon?
no, I don't.
You don't, right?
I went in third grade. I really enjoyed math Hagwon when I was in third grade. I really liked math for some reason. So I did. I went Hagwon not because my parents forced me to. I was like, Mom, can I go to Hagwon? Can I please like learn more
Uh-huh.
math? So I learned a lot of math when I was third grade. I didn't really study math ever since. So yeah,
And your grades are still okay.
my grades are not bad. I mean, in our school standard is really high. Average GPA is 4.0.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
so I am not 4.0, but I'm doing okay.
I mean, you're doing a lot of stuff like
Yes,
besides
yes,
studying, and 4.0 students are probably like going to shit ton of cram schools,
yeah. I mean,
outside.
yeah. Except some people. Some people in our school they do that, and they also do other things outside. But they got into Harvard and these schools. But
Well, yeah.
there are people like that who can manage it.
Mhm.
I find it difficult to manage it.
Yeah, like so many, pulling so many strings together at the same time, and you're still like, you're doing it in a quite amazing way. Like you're combining all the things all together. Really good at time management, probably. And I always thought, what's your opinion on generally like the Hagwon, like the cram school mentality in Korea, and where Korea is going from your standpoint? Because you've spent here what like all your life, right? So you see it from the inside, but you also have this broader mindset of how things like happen on the scale across the board. So what's your idea as a youth, like Korean youth, of where Korea is going and what's happening in the country?
Yeah, I don't think I can say much, but I've been to Korean public school and I've been to private school. I think there's a large amount of people who just want to go into these really like the Jebars, which actually I saw
Mm,
control 50% of the GDP of Korea.
if not more.
Yeah, more, but I mean, only the five ones control more than
Right.
50%, and it's the largest monopoly of any OECD country ever. The second biggest is I think was Japan, and Japan is 10% or 4% by Toyota, and in the States the biggest one is Walmart, and it's only a 1%. Korea
Yeah.
is 50. It's like 30% is like Samsung.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big issue. A lot of kids in my school, in public school, that's all their dream is, and I don't know how. I think in some ways it does transition well, like your mathematical aptitude, like the mathematical, how much they push you is insane. But also the teachers kind of suck at like giving you good time management, like
Mhm.
having like an online dashboard of what you need to do. They made it super annoying. Sometimes if you didn't listen properly, they would tell over that they have a test and they'll tell you the question, but you wouldn't hear it, and then they will never tell you, and you'll have the test and you'll fail. So I
Oh
don't,
shit.
so I don't know if it's the best like because it is kind of very selective. Like a few people survive this like very tough thing, and then they survive, and then they're super
Mhm.
successful. I just don't know if it's the most effective in Korea, and I'm very worried about its future. Just I'm not really experienced. I can't tell much, but just I don't know if Korea is going to be good. I just don't know if based on my public school experience, private school experience, kids are very smart. They all come from wealthy families. They come from lawyer usually, not like like super wealthy. It's usually like lawyers, doctors,
Yeah. Right. Upper
engineers,
middle class. Yeah.
upper middle class, but people who really are like really hard workers. So everyone in our
Mhm.
school works super hard, usually, or super smart.
Yeah, that's a valid concern. I was thinking about like Korea, and I've spent here 8 years here, and since 2016, and I've seen when I first came to Korea, the price for goods was like, let's say 1,000 won for something, and now it's 2,000 won for the same thing. And I'm like, well, shit, the prices are increasing and the salaries are basically staying at the same level. So no, it doesn't seem good. Just like objectively talking, when inflation is so high. But aside from economics, I also thought that Korea is like demographically in this kind of pickle situation, and because of like bad demographics, they have to like the country has to invite a lot of foreigners, and then with foreigners, you have to like kind of reform your approach to language and approach to society, because so many people here don't speak even the second language, and even English, but that's basically like the modicum of communication with all the people that will come to replace the dying population. So it's kind of, to me, it seems paradoxical, like seeing Koreans speaking English in their own country. And like, that doesn't sit right with me.
Mm-hmm.
Just logically, like, that's not what I see feasible in this country.
but it probably is a necessary change.
It
I
is
mean,
probably.
a lot of, but I think they're doing a good job in that. I know some friends who go to college, who got free college education in Korea. They're from Kyrgyzstan, and they're like the smartest minds. Like they won physics Olympiads,
Mhm.
like super smart people, and they're good people as well. So I think if they have those people, and I think this country might go to a better path. But I don't, yeah, it's not really something I think about a lot.
Mhm.
I try to, yeah, I try to think about my own life more. But
Yeah, well, why think about it? Yeah, if you can do anything about it. Um, I thought of an interesting question. So, when you try to like to network, when you try to approach people, do they sometimes like look down on you because of age, or do you have any other, uncomfortable moments because of your age or background or anything?
yeah, one of the biggest issues is they usually go to a bar afterwards, and I can't drink.
Oh shit, yeah.
Or I feel I'm young, so I understand that I need to
Mhm,
be careful. So I don't like, if it seems quite suspicious, I don't go. I try to remain like the more official, like big events.
mhm,
Smaller events, I try to make sure people there are legit. So that's kind of annoying.
mhm,
And also people, I'm 17, so usually either people really like me or people kind of really don't treat me well.
uh-huh,
I've never really had someone treat me on well. They just don't really want to talk with me, and I understand
mhm,
why, because they're very busy and they have their own reasons for networking, and I'm not aligned with that. Then why not?
mhm,
But I try to show them like, hey, I'm very well connected, and I usually, so whatever community they're at, I'm friends with the owner of that community. So I kind of like, oh, I helped him out with this. I can help you connect with this, and people usually open up. So I haven't really felt that bad. I
mhm.
mean, it's just I don't think it's my age. I just think it's what I'm doing. Like the scale of my podcast and the scale of other things I've done is just not big enough where I think it requires any kind of like. I mean, it's pretty cool, but it's not like where they would be willing to do business with me
So
at a
like
large
gain
scale. Yeah,
more.
especially like large scale, like
Uh-huh.
millions of dollars, not at that
Well,
point. So,
definitely.
so, so yeah,
Do you feel like different from now on the other side? Do you feel like different from your peers, from your like the same age group?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, in school, yeah, I feel a bit different. I'm fine with some of my friends are listening. I mean, they're great guys, and I mean, each of us in our school is different. But yeah, I do feel unique in that this is I struggle to find friends who really actually care about what I do, or friends who want to do similar things, but not for people. There's this crowd who just wants money, and there's nothing wrong with that. I also want a lot of money, but they don't really care about how they get there. And I do. I'm pretty artistic. I like designing. I have certain things I want to do to build that. But like I like the art of business just in and of
Mhm.
itself, not just because of the money, but also just for some reason it's fun. I like building teams. Building
Mhm.
teams are fucking amazing,
Yeah.
and I don't feel that lonely because I built this little WhatsApp community of 40 people around my
Mhm.
age, and that kind of keeps me
Mhm.
company.
So what do you do with those people?
We just talk, and I build startups with some of them, and we just
Oh.
keep us updated, and then we like share like, oh, this thing is happening. It's very active, so I really like it. And usually people are a little bit older. They're usually college freshmen or
Mm.
25-year-olds, but they're not so young that, so they're like me kind of, so I can ask them questions. So one of them has like marketing agency for space companies. Another guy has a staffing agency. Another guy has a startup he sold for a lot of money, and he's super
Mhm.
young. He finished masters when he was 15. Like weird people,
Wow.
fascinating people like that. Try to make a small community of groups because I think it's going to be super helpful in the future.
Do you think that you might? I actually think that you might be standing at the like convergence of the more older population and more younger population, and you're doing a great job of trying to connect those people because as you mentioned you have this WhatsApp group where there are people from 20 plus age group and
Yeah.
like teens basically.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's mostly 20 people. It's only me and like one friend who's
mm,
young. So it's mostly
mhm,
20. It's mostly Gen Zs, but it's still Gen Zs, if you know.
mhm.
So people born
Yeah, I'm
after
Gen Z
2000.
basically, yeah.
You're born after 2000?
No, 98.
Oh, okay. So you're
Yeah.
basically, oh,
Yeah, it's like the lower threshold of Gen Z basically, like
yeah.
98 or 97, something like that. So not millennial, but
Yeah.
Gen Z, not Gen Alpha. So like how do you think should people from Gen Z and Gen Alpha interact between each other?
I've never thought of that. I don't know, should, but I think, hmm.
What would you want maybe like Gen Z to do like with Gen Alpha, let's say? because it's kind of like Gen Z's already been through university, probably maybe millennials too, through university,
Yeah,
through some marriages even,
yeah,
and they are like a bit farther ahead in
yeah.
life, and they can share something. They
Yes.
can like
Oh, yeah.
do something, teach something to Gen Alpha, but maybe that's not happening. I'm not sure. I'm Gen Z.
Yeah,
I'm not
definitely. Yeah,
sure.
they don't talk Gen Zs or whatever. Younger people don't talk with older people, and I
Uh,
think that's. I just find it fascinating. My friends think it's fascinating. I'm talking to 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds.
mm,
Some people who spent 3 decades in Silicon Valley, like you learn so much from them, and they think there are people you just can't reach out. That
mhm,
just reaching out to them is some act of sin, a great mistake, or some moral code you're breaking, but it's not. And I hope people were more open
mhm.
because, you know, there's nothing that like if you have actual genuine questions, if you ask someone who's actually done that and gone through that, think of how much further you'd go along.
Yeah.
And like I think one of the issues I knew someone and he was in I think photography and he told me how the photography industry worked. He told me this is how you should go. This is the path you should go and achieve things. And I met the actual photographer who worked for Four Seasons, Chanel,
Mhm,
um, like the but one world class photographer.
mhm.
And he told me everything this guy said was wrong.
Oh shit.
Imagine living in a world where your approach to getting in this industry and everything about it is opposite. It's
Mhm,
like kind of like it's like believing like air is not good for you. You would die immediately. I feel like people live in these weird like opposites of actual reality that they haven't actually explored,
mhm,
and that Gen Z or whatever you are, you kind of talk with your own friends.
mhm,
And I try to avoid talking with people about things which they don't have experience in. So I kind of felt I didn't like talking about a lot of the creative stuff. I didn't really think about, it, but I tried to try to make sure whoever I'm talking to, they have experience in that specific industry,
mhm,
because otherwise I don't understand why I need your opinion.
mhm.
Or unless they're like really thought about it or they're smart or whatever. But generally, I just don't like. I don't think people, especially younger people, they should just listen to the media and their friends' opinion of how this thing works.
Mhm.
Because
It's a bubble.
yeah, it's a bubble, and it's like I think anecdotal like people who have actually done it are much better examples of people you should listen to.
Mhm,
And I think Alex Ramosi was saying it's not just the fact like, oh, these people have done it and their advice. The easier thing is, when your friends tell you, they'll tell you all different things, and it's kind of hard to follow which one to is real and which one is false because they all give you good logical arguments if they're smart enough. But if an experienced person does it, it's very clear in your head. This person done it. He said that. Very logical. I do that.
mhm.
Very likely chance more than any of my friends. So it makes you start doing things at a much faster rate. Even if what the guy was saying was wrong, you still start moving because action is the best way of learning. I found, and I think most people have asked, action is always the best. Inaction does not lead to any learning unless you read really hard. But even reading itself sometimes becomes kind of like masturbation. It's pointless sometimes.
That's a good analogy. I didn't expect that. That makes me think about survivorship bias. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
Yeah. So, do you think that you have some survivorship bias in
Yeah.
here?
I'm not successful, but survivorship bias, I haven't really made it, but the friends, I mean, this is what I kind of try to analyze is these really successful people,
Mhm,
business owners, there's people who haven't achieved that, who worked that hard.
mhm,
I was wondering like, what is, that difference? Like they say this is like hard work and those are the key components. And of course they are key components. And I haven't really figured out like what that difference is and how much survivorship bias affects. But I do know that just first principles thinking,
mhm,
if these things are true, I'll succeed. Okay. If I make a product people want, people pay money.
mhm,
And if I have people who are smart and talented with me, I have a better chance of winning. Like very simple principles. And if I follow that, I think I have a great chance of winning. And in survivorship bias, I think one thing there's a guy called Simon Squibb, he was talking about like
mhm,
how you succeed. And he mentioned something I've never really heard from other people. It's not hard work. It's not whatever you had, right? It's your willingness to change.
mhm,
By willingness to change, he's saying risk taking, being willing to put yourself out there, messaging people on LinkedIn, messaging, reaching out, going to these events, and ever more. And on the other side, internal things you don't want to face. You don't want to face that conversation with your co-founder or with your partner about certain things because you don't want to. It's so annoying. It's so awkward. It's so weird. But if you confront that, even if it's annoying, you'll get that part of your life done so much faster. And
mhm,
that's so much important for startups. And then if you want to, there's so many work you have to do, and then if you actually confront them like annoying things, managing like maybe firing an employee, maybe trying to set this up weird database up, and where you're trying to hire employees, and there's all these issues happening, and instead of like trying to push it off on the last day, trying to face it is so important. And that's kind of what I'm
Mhm.
thinking is the key factor, at least based on my own hundreds of videos I've been watching in my life.
That correlates very well with what Alice said in my podcast earlier. She said that one of the greatest takeaways from her journey through Southeast Asia and generally like through life is it always pays off to face your fears. So it's also something that Tim Ferriss, you know Tim Ferriss,
Yes.
this guy mentioned a lot, and actually made an exercise to reach out, like for his students to reach out to some people and maybe it's not his experience, but it definitely was mentioned in his book, 4 Hour Work Week, I think it's called. So he mentioned that students who reached out to people without a second thought, just reach out to some CEO that you wanted to interview or somebody influential that you thought that you could never reach, that always pays off too, because at least a part of the people will be open to communication and actually email back and say, yeah, like we're chill, man. Yeah, if you want to know something, I'll talk to you. Some people even arranged coffee chats with those, influential people like you do.
Yeah.
You arrange coffee chats, you talk to a lot of influential people, and people at your age, they probably think, how the fuck does he do that?
Yeah,
Like,
I think just talking about that. Just I think people think humans go only merely on logical basis.
mhm,
That every interaction they do is all logical, and these business owners that they're simply driven by complete logic, and it's not even
mhm,
logical. It's just like their your own weird understanding of what they think is logic. Is all business owners, they don't spend any time with kids. They don't. There's no reason for this. There's nothing. And yes, if you're looking at it specifically from a financial standpoint and a short term perspective, 100%, right? But as they're human and they want to give that things down to their to younger generation. A lot of them do that. A lot of them also just want to talk. I mean, that's such a innate human thing.
mhm,
It's like I think people just think they're not human, but they are. And you can talk with them and you realize they're just like you.
mhm.
Just they just focus on something for an extremely long amount of time. And that's how they became successful. But that's it. They're still humans. They still want to talk. They still want to learn. And I just asked them like 100 questions, usually through podcasts. If it's not podcast, coffee chat, ask them questions. I'll try to give them value. You know, it's not just me just asking questions for 4 hours.
Mm,
I just try to help them connect, which is how I try to help you with this place. So I don't like just
true. I
ask you questions.
appreciate that a lot. Yeah. Hmm. Good stuff. I think,
May I just say, ask what the time is?
yeah, it's 6:30.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. What else? I don't think I have anything like in my mind. I just want to talk to you just about stuff generally.
Yeah.
Like,
I really appreciate. I really
yeah.
appreciate you find me interesting enough. I don't think I am, but um,
No, why? You are.
I try to. I try to. I mean, it's just maybe I live in a bubble, but I think there's a lot of cool things happening, and I think I'm just getting started. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, um, I just wanted to share some stuff about like startups and stuff, and like about the fear stuff, embracing your fear, because I don't know. People have said I'm good at networking. You just told me I'm good at socially, like showing myself.
Mhm,
And growing up, I really wasn't. I was not. I barely talked to people. I barely had friends growing up.
mhm,
I what was it? I just barely had friends. I have a couple close friends, and that was it. But usually they left. So I was just me a couple of years. And I
mhm.
remember these kids kind of bullying me, and me just being alone, and it was just like I fucking hated most of my life, kind of socially, and
Why
even
did they bully you?
I don't know. I don't know why. I forgot. I don't really remember my. I just remember my friends who was there. They told me you got bullied.
Mm,
They kind of I don't know. Maybe it was just I was just also not good at talking with people.
mm,
It was hard, and just growing up it was very tough. And yeah, just most of my life in the Korean public school, I don't have anyone left from that. And I remember sitting alone most of the time and just reading books. And it wasn't like I liked reading. I just wanted to put my mind away from it. So I
mm,
definitely wasn't this social person. I did MMA a lot, and that I didn't really talk to people. I just did my own stuff. But I think I never thought of myself as like an extrovert, but now I call myself an extrovert. And I think this is something very helpful to whoever's listening. Is you kind of when you live life, you kind of are living with like whatever the world throws at you and whatever you grew up as. But that isn't really you. If you really face your fears,
Mhm.
and facing your fears doesn't mean like you talk to 100 people in one day. Like it
Mhm.
was so hard for me to break out of this social anxiety. And I still have anxiety a lot with specific types of people. Um, yeah. So, but generally, I'm not as anxious. And I started just by just trying to go on Omegle sometimes, trying to ask questions in the gym, try to at least say hi. All of them were unsuccessful, but I kept trying a little bit more. And I went to a networking event. The first time I was so terrified. I was
Mhm.
so scared. I don't know if I pissed on my pants. I don't think I did, but might have. And I kept doing that, but then it got a lot more usual. And I remember some days like my heart was just so pounding, like I felt like I was gonna die, and I felt so scared. And I didn't cry, but and I felt so much emotion, but I still went up and I talked to the people,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's like, you know, I mean, it's also, I'm just talking about this. I think having not a mentor or a friend who really believes in you is one of the most important things ever in my life. I had a friend, he raised $150,000 when he was 15, like crazy kid, and he was my friend for one of the longest times. And when I met him and he told me that fact, it kind of opened up the world that there is this different world where it's not just whatever I perceive as, whatever the narrative tells you. There is this different world of people who live not like, not just like, it's not just like Elon Musk people and then just normal employees.
Mhm.
There are people in between who live their own lives to their own
Mhm.
accord. And having that people push you to face your fears and grow as a person is one of the most important things. And the fact they believe in you, because someone believing in you, I think, is one of the most tremendous things in your life.
Mhm.
The fact someone believes in me, like recently, one of my mentors, he messaged me and he said, like, I really appreciate the work you're putting in, brother. And he's gonna help me with some finances and stuff a little bit. And he said, um, yeah, it really makes me emotional. But he said, uh, keep going, brother, keep going. I see the work you're putting in. I believe
Keep
in you. And
going.
he said, I believe in you at the end. And I was like, there's nothing like that. I believe in you.
Mhm.
I think someone believing in you is so important, and I wish people had that. That you can be a better person of yourself, and you can change. And I haven't changed much, but I think I've changed a lot from who I was like 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I was playing video games till 3 a.m.
Mhm.
I had no friends. Like, no, like,
Mhm.
so fucking lonely. Fucking corners in the fucking library in my school. And I know where I sat.
Mhm.
And like, you just changed from that. And I was not a good son. I was
Mhm.
super lazy. I was going to Kyrgyzstan in summer break. I didn't do shit. Like, I didn't work. All
Mhm.
my cousins are working hard. They all remembered me as a spoiled kid who
Uh-huh.
probably never amount to anything, who just spoiled as fuck.
Uh-huh.
And you know, I just chose one day to kind of change my life and start doing the work, stop being that spoiled kid. So I think someone believing me is super important.
Nice. That's a really like powerful, you know, statement to stop, to just stop being who you are and like go to be who you really want to be.
And it's not like you need massive changes, small changes,
Yeah.
atomic habits,
Incremental.
very incremental. And sometimes you give up. Sometimes you're like, like you are human. You'll forget. And, I don't think it's good to accept that. Like, oh, you can just always, because if you always think like, oh, I can always change in the future, you might actually never change ever because you might always use that excuse. But I think if you have that part of yourself which actually wants to keep changing,
Mhm.
and despite your failures, like people say like, oh, you're this and this failed, like you'll never amount to anything. Just keep going, just keep pushing. I mean, it's like Dory finding Nemo or something.
Yeah.
Just keep going, just keep going. I just try to remind myself, no matter what happens, I don't achieve what I want. There's so many goals. Like if I didn't make the mistakes, I'll be so much more richer. I would be so much more better. I think I might have retired. Like so many different things I could have done if I
Mhm.
did things properly. But I just have to keep going forward, and that seems like a common thing amongst all the people I kind of look up to. They kept pushing. Elon never had an easy life, and a lot of the mentors, they grew up in very difficult circumstances and they had to face so much stress, so many issues. Like what? Yes.
By the way, talking about Elim, and generally it reminded me of your couple statements remind me of conversation with Evgeny that I had not so long ago, and he said that um, like he kind of got discouraged to be a programmer because of several factors, but also he correlates a lot with what you mentioned, about subjective world and objective world, and he said that he is trying to like go into objective world and actually like see things for what they are. And I had the same question that I had for him for you, the question of like, but it's kind of different because you're just entering this, but you also grew up with technology, so you know it's a bit of a different perspective. What do you think, like what do you feel when you realize that your future is basically like AI driven, like surrounded by AI and everything? Like how do you feel? Because when we were entering workforce, it wasn't there. It was merely like just a couple years ago when we were starting like to work and stuff, and we were like not having AI in the picture. We were thinking about improving ourselves, but now AI is doing everything that we were aspiring to do better than us. Like not better, but not yet better, but
Yeah,
like
soon
on
to be.
the.
Yeah, I think it's a tremendous thing. All my friends are scared of it.
Mhm,
I haven't felt that scared because I mean, unless it becomes like this thing where it replaces all humans.
mhm,
If that happens, I'm scared. But I just don't think that'll happen. I don't know why. I don't know if it's logical. I just don't think it'll happen. And if that won't happen, then I'm just thinking, what are the skill sets that'll survive,
mhm,
right? And this is something I think it was Luke Belmar he was saying, and I followed this really closely. Is the few skill sets that won't change is first talking to people. I can't
mhm.
imagine even if everything is robots, me just talking to a robot and having a conversation.
No.
There are people and there's people connections and community something so integral. I think it's gonna be more integral as people become more digitized and it's harder for communities and it's people are so lonely these days. So I think something community driven is super important. And the other skill set he was saying, so talking to people, and the other skill set is using AI.
Mhm,
The person who can use AI is, I mean, it just makes sense as a tool. So if you just use the tool and you're more efficient than other people, you just win by virtue of that. So I would just learn it. So I'm playing around and I try to force myself to learn new things by hosting AI events sometimes.
mhm,
I've only hosted three, but my plan is to start accelerating this on the fun on the side because I think it'll be so integral. I'm just thinking, learn AI, build community. I don't think I have to worry a lot about a lot of things. And I try to be friends with a lot of AI people because I know some of them will be fucking rich.
Yeah,
It's kind of like
definitely.
I met a one mentor and he was in Silicon Valley when it was like when the crypto things were happening, and he said a lot of the people he met they became fucking billionaires.
Yeah.
And I think an AI thing it's gonna be like that. So I just try to reach out to a lot of AI people. Yeah, because I think some of them will be. I mean, I just ask what time is this? I just don't want to
That's
be
6:40.
6:40. That's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Well, anyway, Elim, I'm really happy to like to get to talk to you. And there's a lot more that I would love to actually talk to you about. You know, the stuff with your MMA career, not career, like part of your life
Yeah. It
with
wasn't big.
MMA
It
and
wasn't
everything.
big.
I mean, it's just like there is a lot to unfold about you yet, even though we spent like an hour talking. So I would love to actually have another podcast with you.
Yeah, sure. I'll
Yeah,
be
I think
down.
there is a lot of to talk about. You know, like first podcast here, I'm just getting to know you and getting like the subscribers to maybe know you too. But second podcast, let's talk about like something more, you know, more abstract maybe. Yeah,
That
I would
would be
love to have
fun.
this conversation.
I'm not sure if I'm best with those things.
No, why?
I
Why? Everyone can talk. Like everyone
yeah
can have an opinion. Maybe that opinion isn't valid,
yeah
but maybe it is. Who knows? Let's
yeah.
talk.
I'm just very careful with like yeah, but yeah, sure. I'll be down. I'll be down. Thanks.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
appreciate your time so
Let's
much.
conquer our fears. Okay, thank you very much, Elim.
Thank you, Dmitry. Thank you so much for your time. This is fucking amazing.
This is fucking amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate the conversation.
I really appreciate it. You think
I didn't know you did MMA. I mean, you do look sturdy, like
some people say